Hello friends, welcome to Lab 4 OpenStack Train Training Lab Series. We have done 3 labs. The first lab was about creating the virtual machines. Second lab was configure networking in the virtual machines so that you can connect from host machine and you can connect virtual machines among themselves. And the third lab was installing NTP Network Time Protocol Server Crony and MariaDB on the controller. In this lab, we will set up the rest of the prerequisites which are required for OpenStack installation and configuration. The first thing is we will install the repository which is mandatory, which is required for OpenStack Train. And the repository name is centos release OpenStack Train. So yum-y install centos release OpenStack Train. We need to run this command on all the machines. So let's start on the storage and then on the compute node. So we need to run it on all the machines. Once the repository is installed, then we are good to go. We are start with the upgrade. We need to upgrade all the machines so that there is no package pending for upgrade, though we upgraded it yesterday. So all the machines we are running the same command. So yum-y update. So this is the update running on all the machines. Okay, so it will update all the packages repositories. So it says MariaDB bench require MariaDB. So MariaDB is missing, so let's install yum install MariaDB, because it says according to this MariaDB is missing on this on the controller. So yum install MariaDB. So, okay, it says yum install removing MariaDB 64 update MariaDB. Something missing, some conflict is happening. MariaDB bench require MariaDB 64-bit, which we have. Removing this base 5.5.64/1 and updated by MariaDB 10. Oh, because it is update is required. No problem. What we will do is let's remove that MariaDB which we installed, and we install the latest one from the repository. That's fine. So yum erase MariaDB. That's fine with us. We'll do that. No problem. So we'll erase MariaDB and we'll install the latest one. That's fine. And we'll install it. Yes, now it is fine. So we'll have the latest version of MariaDB. Of course our configuration file will be intact, so that's fine. So we are installing MariaDB 10 now. That's great. We have latest version of MariaDB, and we'll just verify the status. Rest everything is good. Okay, so Systemctl status MariaDB, status Systemctl status MariaDB. Okay, enable MariaDB service. Systemctl enable MariaDB. No such file or directory. Why not? MariaDB is, what is the problem with MariaDB now? Okay, let's see. MariaDB is okay. Server is installed or not? Server. Let's see that. Oh, server was missing. How come? How can we start MariaDB without a server? That's fine. Fine. Now let's enable it. Yes, now enabled, and start with the command. Come on. Enable status in fact start, and then status. Yes, it is running. And let's verify the file. File configuration file are generally not removed. /etc/ my.cnf.d. Under that we have the file, right, which we created, MariaDB openstack.cnf. The file is still there, so absolutely no problem, because when you install or upgrade, your configuration, custom configuration files are never changed, so that's good thing. And let's see if our password is also same. So MySQL secure installation, we'll run that again. Enter root password for node. Let's see if it is working. That means our password is working. Root db pass. That's fine. Change the root password. No, I'm okay with that. Anonymous user, yes. Remove anonymous user. Disallow. No, don't disallow. Remove test access. Yes, remove it. Privilege table now. Yes, fine. So MariaDB part is done again. So we have to repeat it. That's fine. That's okay. Now let's continue with the rest of the settings. So we have done yum update on all of the machines. Now we'll install the prerequisite packages like Python, OpenStack client, RabbitMQ server, ETCD, and a lot of other packages are there. So let me just use copy paste to save the time. So yum, let me show you once again. Yum-y install Python OpenStack client, RabbitMQ server, Memcached, Python Memcached, ETCD, OpenStack SE Linux, Python py MySQL, which is very important utility to connect from our configuration from OpenStack. So this Python utility, Python connector is mandatory for us for our OpenStack training. So we need to install it on the controller. Mind it, we need to install it on the controller. But rest packages, we also the same packages we need to install on all the machines. Only thing is that MariaDB database is required only on the controller. Alright, and these packages, these repositories and these packages, these are required to be installed on all the packages on the nodes, let it be compute or controller or storage node. So this is the prerequisite package installation. I missed something, come on, so don't do this mistake, my friends. The RabbitMQ server and Memcache are required only on the controller. You don't require this on the controller or on the rest of the servers. So MessageQue, OpenStack uses a MessageQue actually to coordinate operations and status information among services. OpenStack service supports several MessageQue services like RabbitMQ, QPID, and 0MQ. So this require only on the controller node. So we just focus it on the controller node. So let's see what is the status of the controllers about to complete. So what we will do is we'll simply enable it, Rabbit enable Systemctl enable RabbitMQ server and start RabbitMQ server, and then we'll add a user, OpenStack user. So RabbitMQ add user OpenStack and with the password Rabbit password. And permit configuration write and read access for the OpenStack user. So for that we'll use RabbitMQ set permission OpenStack, and then star dot followed by space followed by star dot star followed by dot star. We need to specify that, and may of course because it run on port number 11211 TCP port and 5672 TCP port, we need to open these ports on the firewall. So this is what is required for the RabbitMQ MessageQue server. So it is to be configured only on the controller. So I started it on the storage node and compute node, so just ignore it. Just you have to install it only on the controller node, not rest of the nodes. So just ignore on the rest of the node, please. It is required only on the controller node. We are configuring the controller. So ETCD, RabbitMQ, Memcache, these are required only on the controller node. So it is almost done. Once it is done, we will do the configuration part of these servers. 3 prerequisites are there, and that will be all. Don't nothing to panic. That will be all for the prerequisites, because the next lab, then we will start the lab number 5 will be configuring the Keystone identity service for OpenStack. That will be the first service. So we'll configure Keystone in the next lab. This is the last lab for the prerequisite part, because we are just doing the prerequisite right now. So you can ignore the rest of the node. Please focus only on the controller node. This is required only on the controller node. So we just need to start RabbitMQ server and open it through the firewall. And we are working on the controller. Take a note of it, controller node. So I'm going to work only on this node for Memcache, RabbitMQ and ETCD. That's it. So Systemctl enable RabbitMQ server dot service, and then we need to start it, and we can check the status also. We can check the status. So now our RabbitMQ server is running, and then we need to add a user for OpenStack with a password which we will be requiring throughout our configuration. All the lab will be required. This is going to be the most important step, because you need to remember this username. Username will be OpenStack, password will be RabbitPass. So rabbitmqctl add underscore user, username is OpenStack, password is RabbitPass. So I need to do this. So user created, username is OpenStack. Now we need to permit configuration write write and read access for the OpenStack user. So we need to permit that. So for that, again RabbitMQCTL set permissions for the user. So dot star double quotes, within double quote there is a space in between, remember that, and then dot star within double quote and dot star within double quote. So set these permissions, and the permissions are set. Alright, and then we, as I said, we need to enable the port through firewall cmd -- permanent add port 11211 for TCP and 5672 for TCP. These are the 2 ports which we require, so we are adding through the firewall. And finally we will reload the firewall. So firewall config reload. So that is all about the RabbitMQ server. Now let's configure Memcache. Okay, for that we need to edit the file config memcached file. So let's open that file, vi memcache sysconfig memcached under etc sysconfig memcached. In this file we need to specify existing the option, where we have this option -1, right? Here we need to specify, and we need to add our own IP address here. Okay, what we need to do is we need to add our controller. That is very important, and that's the line we require. So options rest, this is the default IP address actually. This is the local host, this is the local host for IPv6, and this is our controller node, controller controller node. Okay, no space in between, separated by space, that's it. So this will actually enable access to by other node via management network, and that is what is required for that. Alright, so this is the only setting which we require in this file memcached. Now what we need to do is we need to simply enable this and restart this service. So systemctl enable memcached.service, and we need to start the server. Okay, start the service. and we can check the status. So it is running now. So Memcache is also done. Now we are left with the ETCD. That's also required on the controller node. So that is the last service for the prerequisites. ETCD. Let's configure it. Basically, this service ETCD is known as distributed reliable key value store for distributed key locking, storing configurations, keeping track of service liveness and other scenarios. So for this purpose we need to edit the file under etc folder /etc/etcd/etcd.conf. so we need to edit this file. So vi/etc/etcd/etcd.conf, this file we need to edit. Under this file we have a lot of changes. So under this we have to make a lot of changes here. So first is etc data directory, and this is fine. etc data directory is var lib etcd default.etcd, so no problem with that. Listen peer, so this line is etcd listen peer URL. So here we need to specify our own URL, listen peer URL. So let's uncomment this line. The line is by default commented, so uncomment this line, etcd listen peer URLs. Okay, in this we need to specify the IP address of our controller. So the controller IP address is 10.0.0.11. this is the IP address :2380. that's fine. Then again, wherever local host is, we need to type that address 10.0.0.11, and this line also uncomment, that is listen client URL. So listen peer URLs, listen client URL, and etcd name is by default, it is default, so we need to change it to controller, because our controller is the etcd name, controller. Then after this etcd name is controller, then we need to go to the clustering part. This part is done. That's all for this part. Three settings to be important. One is the peer URL, then listen client URL, and the etcd name. Then after that we go to the clustering. Here also we need to specify etcd advertise, this URL. This URL also needs to be changed to the controller. So 10.0.0.11, we need to change this URL. Alright, and that is initial advertise. This line also needs to be uncommented. So etcd initial advertise peer URL. So localhost, wherever localhost is, we are going to change it to our IP address 10.0.0.11, 10.0.0.11. so IP address and the port name will remain the same. So client URL we have done, etcd initial advertise peer URLs we have done, then etcd advertise client URL we have done, and then initial cluster we need to change this. So where's that etcd initial cluster? Here we need to make changes. So we need to uncomment this line. By default it is commented, etcd initial cluster. Since we change the name to controller, so we need to make changes here, CONTROLLER controller, and the IP address of the controller, that is 10.0.0.11, 10.0.0.11. so controller controller is equal to http://10.0.0.11, and the port number will remain the same. And then etcd initial cluster name, this also need to be uncommented. Cluster name, cluster token, actually cluster token, etcd cluster 01. You can specify any name if you want, so let's make it -01. And then initial cluster state is new. Let's uncomment this line also. Initial cluster state is equal to new, and that's all. So let's go back one by one. Initial cluster state new, etcd initial cluster token, etcd cluster 01. Then etcd initial cluster, we need to specify controller CONTROLLER. Generally I commit typing mistakes, so I'm just reconfirming the spellings. Controller is equal to http://10.0.0.11. Fine, perfect. etc digital discovery, nothing changes, nothing to be changed here. etc advertise client, that's URL needs to be verified. 10.0.0.11, 10.0.0.11. Fine. And here name controller, and that's great, all is good, fantastic. We have done this ETCD also. And then finally we need to enable ETCD and start ETCD and enable it through the firewall, right? So enable, start, check the status. Yes, it is running, and we need to enable through the firewall also. That is cmd -- port. And you remember what was the port? We need to open all the ports which were listed here, 2380 and 2379, if you remember that. So same settings we are doing here also. -- reload. Alright, so firewall setting done, and etcd is also configured. So that's what all from this part. Let's remove this memcache and all this from the compute node. Unnecessary, it will create problem for us. Yum erase etcd memcached, and one more was there, rabbitmq. We need to remove this memcached, rabbitmq and etcd from the client, that is controller, sorry, what do you call it, this storage node, and this we need to remove this from both the machines, compute and storage. So yum erase, that was a mistake as I told you. Yum erase etcd memcached rabbitmq. We need to remove these three things. Okay, rabbitmq server, rabbitmq star, it was rabbitmq server, I think. Yeah, rabbitmq server. So we need to install, because rabbitmq, memcache and etcd we need to install only on the controller. So that's all for what we have done in this lab 4. We have configured all the prerequisites for OpenStack, and now we are good to start our final the first official lab, that is Keystone service. We will do in the next lab. So we'll configure Keystone, and then we'll go for dashboard and other services. So the prerequisites are done, and the networking is done. MariaDB database is up and running. Everything is great. All right, thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.